Go for it.
Okay. All right. Well, hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us during your lunch hour. This is a webinar of AFP Northwest. Burnout, how does it hit us as fundraisers, and how do we deal with it? We have certified executive coach Ellen Whitlock Baker here as our special guest to talk us through the subject. And my name is Bill Isley. I'm a member of the 2025 Programs Committee for AFP Northwest. We're always looking for new members to join us at the Association of Fundraising Professionals. So please reach out if you have any questions. I'd love to give you more information on that front. I use he, him pronouns. I'm a white man wearing a blue shirt and glasses. If you're joining from the Seattle area, then you are likely joining us from occupied land. We acknowledge that the city of Seattle is on stolen Coast Salish land, specifically the ancestral land of the Duwamish, Suquamish, Stillaguamish, and Muckleshoot people. We make this acknowledgement to remind ourselves that by being here today, we strive to remedy this injustice through our beliefs and actions. I encourage everyone to visit native-land.ca to learn more about the land that you are occupying. A special welcome to all our current AFP members who are able to attend this webinar free of charge as a benefit of their membership. You can also learn more about membership and volunteer opportunities at afpadvancement.northwest.org. And I'll drop that link into the chat a little bit later on. All attendees will receive a recording of today's program and a very short survey. Please take a few minutes to let us know how the program went and to suggest topics for future programs. The webinar will be recorded and added to the program archives on the AFP website. Now I get the honor of introducing somebody who I've gotten to know a little bit over the last few months, and I'm very excited to have her meet with us today. Ellen Whitlock Baker is the founder and CEO of EWB Coaching, which helps professionals learn how to prioritize themselves in a world that often tells them not to. With her superpowers of empathy and honesty, she is passionate about helping you understand how uniquely awesome you are and how harnessing your personal strengths can be life-changing. With 20 years in the workplace and a certification in executive coaching through the International Coaching Federation, Ellen helps leaders become the best versions of themselves through expert one-on-one coaching, workshops, and courses. After her own experiences with burnout and self-doubt, her goal is to help others never get to that place. Ellen is also the host of the Hard at Work podcast, which says the quiet part out loud about what's not working in today's workplaces and shares tools to help survive it and change it. You can learn more about Ellen's work at ewbcoaching.com and about the podcast at hardatworkpodcast.com. Very pleased to welcome you, Ellen. Thanks so much. I'm going to turn it over to you now.
Thank you so much, Bill, and thank you everybody for having me. It's really lovely to be here. It was a great opening, and yeah, I love being among fundraisers. These are my people, so I am happy to be among friends. I am going to go through this workshop with you. It's a little bit interactive. It's also really short, so this is a shorter version of what I normally do in a 90-minute workshop. But my goal is, as always, to give you actionable tools and tips that you can take away and put into practice today to help yourself get to a place where you're resisting and maybe even overcoming burnout. So I hope that it will be helpful for you. Definitely, please raise your hand. If you have a question, you can enter the chat or even just unmute yourself. It's totally fine. We keep it casual here. So here we go. Can everybody see my screen? Excellent. Thank you for the thumbs up. Also, I just had rotator cuff surgery, so I'm rocking this really pretty sling, and my husband did my hair. So we're really proud of him. He's doing a good job. Actually, this is hard, so I'm impressed. Anyway, so I'm really glad we're talking about burnout today. I imagine that you're here because you maybe are feeling a little bit of burnout or have in the past or have team members who might be feeling burnout. You might be surprised to see this statistic. This is a new statistic from the Chronicle for Philanthropy, that 50% of fundraisers are or more are planning to leave their current roles within 2 years. And a lot of them want to leave because of burnout. And that's really sobering. And I hope we take a minute to digest that, especially those of you who might be people leaders. If you're feeling great, you're not feeling any burnout, you're loving your job, you're loving your life, I am so happy for you. But it's a good chance that half of the people on your team are feeling it if you're looking at the statistic as a guiding light. So I hope that whatever you do today, you can take away some tools that you can do with your team if you're a leader, or amongst your leadership team if you're part of that, or for yourself as well. So before that, I'll just give you my background really quickly. Bill gave a great introduction. I worked in advancement for 20 years at higher education. So I was at the University of Washington and Seattle University. My specialty is alumni engagement and annual giving. So definitely not a major gift officer, but I'm very impressed with all you do, and definitely have worked a lot with folks who do one-on-one fundraising. And I was at work and really sort of starting to feel burned out. And I think a lot of us after the pandemic are experiencing this. It's actually statistically shown that midlife women in particular are very prone to burnout are starting to be more prone to burnout after the pandemic. It has a lot to do with how much is expected of us, and doesn't matter who you are, there's a lot expected of you every day. And I was trying to push it down, not feel it, get through it. I was like, there's something wrong with me. I just need to go to the gym more. I need to meal plans. Something is wrong with me. I'm exhausted all the time. I don't know what it is. And so this is a picture of my family and I at the show Beetlejuice the Musical, which we took my daughter to, and she loved the music. So we took her to the show. We were super excited. It was at the Paramount. And I had come from work to meet my family there. And about 10 minutes into the show, I just started crying and I could not stop. And I didn't know why. It was definitely not the show. The show was not sad in any way, shape, or form. But I realized later that it was just, I'd hit the bottom in a way. And that was everything that I'd been holding in. It just came out, and I had no control over where or when or how it came out. So from there, I really started recognizing my burnout, the signs of burnout, and made a path for myself to get to a place where I wasn't experiencing that anymore. And I don't want that to happen to anyone else, because it's a really hard process. Once you're there, it's really hard to get back. And so that's why I do the work that I do today. I coach, I do workshops, I do presentations like these, and my goal is to make workplaces healthier for everybody. So what we'll do today, again, this will go pretty quickly, but we'll start with a quick self-reflection. We're going to talk about what is burnout, actually. We hear about it all the time, but what is it? How do you know if you have it or not? We're going to look at the word resilience and think of it as a restorative practice. It's a rethinking of the word that I really find powerful. And how can you put that into practice right now at work to help yourself avoid burnout? We're going to talk about setting boundaries, which are the burnout blaster. It's the key. And then wrap up, and I have some free resources and other things to share with you. So quickly, in one word, I want you to think about what is weighing you down at work right now. And I want you to write it down physically. Hopefully you have something to write on. And if you don't, that's okay. If we were doing this in person, I'd have you write it on a Post-it note, put it at the front of the room. If you're feeling like you want to, throw it in the chat. We'd love to see. I'll give you a second to do that. And I don't know if I can see the chat. So Bill and Shannon, if you can, feel free to read out what people are saying. Oh, there we go. I can't see it. Just kidding. Deadlines. Yep. Anyone else want to share? Funding, budget cuts, the world. There's a lot happening in our worlds right now. Yep. Pulled in 1,000 directions, unrealistic expectations, not enough time. These are real and they're hard. So I'm glad you're here today, and we'll talk for a minute about what burnout actually is, because those things that you wrote down, those are all things that can cause and will cause burnout if you're not able to manage them in a way that works for you, not your workplace, as the center of attention, which is kind of what we're conditioned to work towards, is doing everything that our workplace wants us to do. And even though, yes, you want to do a great job at work, if you do everything your workplace wants you to do, you likely will burn out because the expectations are often unrealistic. And in the long term, that does nobody any good. So I'm not saying don't work hard, but I'm saying you have to take care of yourself first. And that can be a little tricky for us because we have learned not to do that, a lot of us. So let's talk about, okay, burnout. What is it? It's a definition from Psychology Today. Burnout is a state of emotional, mental, and often physical exhaustion brought on by prolonged or repeated stresses. And I'm just curious, but I would imagine that that feels like your life for some of you. It definitely is a good description of what my life felt like before I moved on. So I think it's a good description. And in order to give you a good outline of kind of what burnout can look like, I'm going to tell you a story. So this is Sam. Sam's a major gift officer, and they've been working at the same nonprofit for about 18 months. And Sam, when they started, was that person who just like lit up talking about the mission. They loved their job. They were on top of it. They remembered every donor's birthday. They went after their portfolio like with gusto. They just cared about connecting people to something bigger than themselves. They worked hard. They worked late. They worked weekends. They just were all in for their organization. But lately, they're feeling a little different. So Sam is just tired all the time. They're really, no matter how much sleep they get, they still feel like they want to take a nap every day and sleep all weekend. Mondays feel impossible. Sunday nights feel very hard and full of anxiety. And maybe they're thinking, I guess I maybe need to go to the gym more. So I should wake up at 5 a.m. every morning and go to the gym. I don't know what, maybe I need more sleep. Maybe I need a different mattress. Who knows? But somehow I'm exhausted. So Sam's in that place. Sam is also noticing that they're getting increasingly irritated by this one coworker who's someone they used to use as like a person that a sounding board and, was kind of their coffee buddy. But lately that person just is really rubbing them the wrong way. And that person vents to them all the time. And so Sam, instead of thinking, how can I help you? I want to be open about this. Instead of compassion, Sam finds themselves thinking, that's not my problem. Everybody's overwhelmed. Figure it out. So this kind of numbness that creeps in. And then finally, recently, Sam closed this major campaign milestone. It was a really big deal. They'd worked toward it for a whole year. And at the end of it, all they felt was relief that it was over, as opposed to any sort of joy or pride. It was just a kind of a thank God that's done. And they're starting to feel like nothing they do makes a difference anymore. Maybe they're all feeling always behind. They're not doing enough. They should be grateful they have this job. And the scary thing is that Sam thought that all of these things were their fault. It was them doing something wrong. But I'm going to tell you right now, these are 3 exact definitions of how you can be feeling burnout. So if anything is resonating with you, I hope that you listen to yourself on that. Sam's story is to illustrate this really great definition of burnout that I find from the book Burnout, so titled, by Emily and Amelia Nagoski. They're sisters, and this is a great book. Highly recommend it. It also has, you can buy a workbook that goes along with it if you want to really kind of work on what's going on with you. But they define burnout in these sort of 3 ways. The first is emotional exhaustion. And this is going to be the biggest defining symptom of burnout. This is the fatigue that comes from caring too much for too long. So if you go back to Sam, they're tired all the time. They can't get up on Monday mornings. Nothing feels doable. That's emotional exhaustion. That is a symptom of burnout. The second description of the Nagoski's definition of burnout is depersonalization. So this is the depletion of empathy, caring, compassion. And you'll notice in Sam's story, that's when they started to feel like their coworker was more irritating and they should just figure it out rather than having compassion to help them. And finally, it's a decreased sense of accomplishment. So an unconquerable sense of futility, feeling that nothing you do makes any difference. And Sam was feeling that way at the end when they reached that campaign milestone and didn't feel anything other than it's done. So these might be things that you identify with. These might be feelings that you have or have had in the past. These might be feelings that your team is having or has had in the past. So it's definitely something to be aware of. And often we don't listen to what's going on with us, particularly. We don't like to talk about feelings as much. We don't like to think about feelings. It's just a thing we do, right? And some of us are better at it than others. But they're actually, the way that you're feeling, both physically and mentally, is going to be your absolute compass for how you are going to do with your mental health and whether or not you're heading towards burnout. So it is important that we listen to these things. I always say, don't be like Elsa, because if any of you have young children, you will have listened to Frozen 7,000 times like me. And, you know, Elsa in her song says, conceal, don't feel, don't let them in, right? So don't be Elsa, because it's not going to work out for you well. Although I guess you could be the Elsa at the end. That's like super cool and letting everybody in. It's totally up to you. So I would love you, we're going to find out if you are on the brink of burnout or not. So I want you to answer yes or no to the following. Just write it down. Do you feel emotionally drained by the end of most workdays? Have you started to dread work you used to enjoy or at least tolerate? Are you finding it harder to concentrate, stay organized, or make decisions at work? Have you stopped doing things outside of work that usually help you recharge? Do you feel like no matter how hard you work, it's never enough? At the height of my burnout, the answer was yes to all 5 of these. And so if you're looking at this and you've answered yes to 3 or more, I want you to think about that, because you're on your way. You may even be there. And I'm not here to diagnose you. I'm here to bring self-awareness to you so that you can kind of stop and think and say, whoa, I am feeling these things. That is not a good sign. And I need to do something about it. If you answered yes to one, even one of them, that is a little bit of a red flag. So I want you to really think about that. And this is a great check to do with your team too, if they're willing to do this and share results with you, because again, you might be feeling great, they might be feeling terrible based on whatever's going on in their life as well. You know, our workplaces like to think of us all as the same person. They want to treat us exactly the same, equality rather than equity, but we are very different people. And what is stressing me out may not stress Greg out at all. And so my burnout is coming from my experience, both my lived experience, my family of origin, how I grew up, what trauma I might have had, what's happening in my personal life right now. There's a million things that go into how you are feeling on any given day, and we are not all the same. So it's really important to do this check for yourself. And if you can, think about doing it for your team as well, just to make sure everybody's okay. So I just want to reiterate, get on my soapbox here. It's not you. You're not burned out because you're weak. You're not resilient enough. You're not doing your work well enough. You're not managing it all well enough. You're burned out because you've been too strong without support for too long. And that hopefully helps you just feel a little bit better about if you're in that place, because we're often conditioned to feel guilty if we're in that place. Again, it's our fault. We're doing our job wrong. We should be grateful for this. There's so many things that workplaces in general, society in general, it wants us to, you know, stay engaged at work and not question things and not feel bad and not, you know, be different in a lot of workplaces. But in fact, you are. And so ignoring it is not going to make it better. And going back to that 50% of fundraisers who are thinking about leaving within the next 2 years, it's not going to do the profession any good if you ignore it. You have to be okay at work in order to continue going to work. And trust me, when you get to the burnout space, you just can't work anymore. You get to a place where it's impossible. So I don't want you to get there. So what do we do about it? So here are some things that you can take away and do today. And also caveat, burnout, any sort of mental health questions, therapy is fantastic. I highly recommend therapy. I highly recommend going and getting support from whatever communities. If you have a faith community, anything, that is a great resource here. So again, this is not what I'm going to tell you here. These are some things that you can do right now to sort of stave off burnout or to stop it in its tracks. But if you're already down that path, if you answered 3 or more, these are probably not enough for you. And it would be great to seek another resource, because a breathing exercise may not be what you need at the moment. But if you're in a place where you're feeling like, oh, I'm a little worried about burning out, and or you want to keep your team from burning out, this is a great practice, the 3 R's. So a quick note about the word resilience. We've been using the word resilience for years. It became very popular during the pandemic. I started hating the word during the pandemic because I thought it meant, the way it was kind of being defined was like grit it out and make it through and, do whatever you can do to just get through it. Don't complain. And that's really not the definition of resilience. And my friend Kira Masa, who I had on the podcast, if you ever want to listen, I think it's episode 5 or 6, she talks about resilience as a restorative practice. So it's really about building up the tools in yourself so that you can recognize and not let these super stressful things affect you so hard that you get to that burnout place. So the 3 R's are this practice, super easy. The first step is recognize what's happening to you. So you're starting to feel like, I don't know how you all feel, but I sort of get this choking feeling when I'm overwhelmed, like, oh my God, I can't get it all done and I've got too much happening. That's when it's a really good idea to stop and recognize. And all you do at that point is you state what's happening. You don't judge it. You don't try to solve it. You don't try to explain it. I'm spiraling. Okay, I'm spiraling. That's it. You don't need to know why. You don't need to know anything else. Just, this is happening to me right now. And I talk a lot with my clients in these workshops about be a scientist. So I always think of the image of Beaker from the Muppets, who's my favorite Muppet, but it helps me because Beaker's adorable. But if you think of yourself as a scientist, it actually helps your brain kind of click back into a more rational state when you are in a stress response, which you are in when you're kind of in that spiraling state. And it's looking at yourself as an outside observer. It takes away a lot of the sort of emotional mess that's happening, that's confusing, and you can't necessarily identify what it is. And it lets you kind of clearly see, okay, this thing is happening. So I highly recommend that sort of thought in your mind, whatever your favorite scientist is, just think about that when you're in this space, because it can really help you to stop before you go total stress response. The second R is regulate. This is, you have heard this a million times. We're going to do an exercise super quickly just to show you how easy it is in a minute. But this is take a minute, take 2 minutes, take 90 seconds, take 30 seconds, but do a reset. And this means kind of getting into your body a little bit. So get out of your mind and into your body, which is part of your nervous system. So you're not, not thinking anymore, but what you're doing is kind of getting your body back into that reset mode so that that rational brain is working a little bit better for you. This can be a breathing exercise, a body scan. Sometimes people go outside and touch grass. It can be whatever it is for you that works. I'm a terrible meditator. That is not what works for me because my mind is, I'm still not good at that. But if I do a 5-minute YouTube meditation, great. They have 1-minute meditations. There's all sorts of things that you can do. And I'll show you this quick exercise. But I guarantee you that it will give you strength and time and calm that mind down so that you can really kind of see more clearly what is actually happening. And that's where the reorient comes in. So once you're in that place of being regulated, kind of knowing what's happening, naming what's happening, then you can reorient. And that's where you say, what is mine to carry right now? Because I guarantee you that whatever you were spiraling about is either, you will realize it's either completely not in your control, it's completely not something that you actually need to be worried about at all. It's something that maybe you need to worry about, but in 5 days. And you often will find that like you were spiraling for a lot of different reasons, but now that your body's back to calm, you can actually kind of set your expectations again. Cool, makes sense? 3 R's, recognize, regulate, reorient. Hopefully pretty easy to put into place for all of you. So I'm gonna do a quick breathing exercise with you, just to show you how easy it is and how it doesn't take too long. So if you feel like it, you can turn off your camera, you can close your eyes, you can make your eyes go fuzzy, you can do whatever you want. But just take a minute, we're just gonna go through this together. So if you're sitting in a chair, sit with your feet on the floor, your back against the chair. If you're standing, both feet on the floor, comfortable position. And what we're gonna do is box breathing, which I know a lot of you have heard about. We're gonna breathe in for 4, hold for 4, breathe out for 4, and hold for 4. And we're gonna do that 3 times. So here we go. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, breathe out, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, breathe out, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4. Last time, breathe in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, breathe out, 2, 3, 4, and hold, 2, 3, 4. You can take a minute to come back to yourself, open your eyes, get comfortable. I would love to hear how you're feeling after doing that. In the chat, you can unmute, whatever you like. How are you feeling after doing that exercise? I'll leave the beach up because it's pretty. More focused? Are you feeling calmer? You feeling a little bit more ready to take on the day? Yeah. And I know that all of you know this. You know breathing exercise, you've been through them before, but it's just so simple and we forget to do it. Simple but not easy, right? Shoulders are down. I love that, Heidi. Mine are always up here too. I do that every time I get on a plane because I hate flying. So I do box breathing for like 2 minutes when I get on a plane and it always helps. So just a quick example, that's something you can do with your team. It's something you can do with yourself. And there's a million other options that you can find. Okay. So what we've been talking about is really completing the stress cycle. And then Nagoski sisters talk about this a lot in Burnout. You've heard this before too, but just a reminder that these are things that can actually complete the stress cycle in your brain and kick you back into gear. So sometimes that breathing exercise is going to do that for you. Sometimes the 3 R's are going to do that for you. Sometimes they may not be enough. So sometimes when you're really in that stress moment, and the definition of that is, your brain identifies things that are out to hurt you, that, threats. And your brain doesn't know the difference between a threat being a lion running at you, like it used to be in the olden days, the threat, or your boss saying, hey, we need to talk, right? It does not know the difference. Those are both the same threat to your brain. And what threatens me is going to be different than what threatens you, right? So we all kind of have our own things that worry us the most and scare us the most and kick on our stress response cycle. But as soon as your brain identifies a threat, it kicks on the stress response cycle that sends all of the energy or more energy towards your heart and your lungs and your muscles because it's preparing you to be able to run away or to fight the lion. So fight or flight. It's literally the nervous system brain is sending more resources to the things that you need to run away or punch a lion in the nose. And it's actually, in order to do that, it has to take the resources away from other places. So it's actually, you're getting less blood flow to your rational brain because you don't need it in that minute. You just need to react quickly. And you're getting less blood flow to things like your digestive system because that doesn't matter right in that moment. So it's a really cool thing that happens, except that for us, it's happening all the time because of all of the different stressors that we have every given day. And it's happening for things like my boss telling me I need to talk, we need to talk because I'm so stressed about everything else anyway. So we're kind of living in this place where we're up in that world all the time. So these are some things that you can do that actually physically bring your body back to homeostasis, or at least close to it, and turn that stress cycle off. And so it gives you more rational thought back. It lets you digest all of the things. So things like 20 to 60 minutes of moving your body. It can be dancing, it can be running, it can be walking, it can be doing whatever it is, but that is absolutely will kick your brain back into the rational mode. We talked about breathing, positive social interaction. Sometimes this is just sending silly memes to your friends. And I'm not kidding. It doesn't have to be hard, but I think a lot of times we make it hard. So if you need to take a break and, read your Instagram messages where your friends that you only talk to through Instagram message have sent you 5 funny things, then do that, right? Laughing. I love to watch Saturday Night Live blooper reels. They always make me laugh. There's something out there that's going to make you laugh. Remember it. Affection. Getting a hug can really help you. Crying it out. I cry when I'm stressed. It's a part of my stress response cycle, as you noticed from my story about Beetlejuice. Stopping it doesn't help. Sometimes I just need to cry it out. And it can really be cathartic and complete that stress cycle for you, actually, physically. And then things like creative expression can do that. I know some people who have like puzzles in their break rooms that people can go in and do. Drawing. I bet things like Wordle fall into this category, not necessarily creative, but definitely using your brain in a certain way. So just to remember, there's a lot of things that you can do when you're in that super stressed mode and it's not helping to do the 3 R's or a sort of shorter exercise. Think about taking a little more time. And again, if you don't invest the time in this now, it's just going to come back and bite you. So if you feel like I can't possibly be away from my desk for 20 minutes to take a walk, it's going to be worse if you don't. So thinking about it and doing it are really important. Okay, so for this last part, let me take a little sip of my Diet Coke. We're going to talk about boundaries. So we talked about the 3 R's, the completing the stress cycle. Those are 2 things you can do right away when you're feeling burned out or you're feeling just in a stress moment. Boundaries are the things that are really, really going to help you combat burnout. And boundaries are really hard for a lot of us. If we were in a room, I'd ask you to raise your hand, but I definitely have a super hard time with boundaries. I'm a people pleaser. I don't like to say no. And I also, in the workplace, want to always be proving my worth and proving that I'm doing a good job. And for me, growing up in the nonprofit and public sector, that means going above and beyond all the time. But that then, over time, it will plow through my boundaries and sneak into my time at home with my family or my lunch breaks or my early mornings or just my brain space in general when I'm not at work. So boundaries are key. And this is a great definition of boundaries by Nedra Glover Tawwab. If you have not read any of her books, she has fabulous books. She's also really great to follow on social media, so highly recommend. But she defines boundaries as expectations and needs that help you feel safe and comfortable in your relationships. Expectations in relationships help you stay mentally and emotionally well. Learning when to say no and when to say yes is also an essential part of feeling comfortable when interacting with others. So when I read that, my mind immediately goes to like my family. But when I think about applying it to my workplace, it's a whole other meaning. So boundaries are important everywhere. And yes, it is okay to take them. In fact, again, 50% of you are going to leave in 2 years. We need to take them or else we will be leaving. And we don't want to do that. So here are some really quick boundary scripts if you are someone who just has a hard time with boundaries, like me. I need to tap out for 2 minutes. I need a quick break. You don't have to explain why. You don't have to ask for it. You just tell them you're doing it and you leave. This is if a meeting's getting heated or your brain's really overstimulated or whatever, you can do that. And if you are a people leader, it's a really good idea to talk to your team and set a norm around being able to do this. So, you all meet together and you say, hey, if any of us are having a hard time in a meeting, we give ourselves permission to say, I need a minute and leave. And that way, nobody's wondering where Bob went. Nobody's making up dramas about it. You're all recognizing that you're going to need a minute sometimes and that it's okay to take it. So I think that's something that one of my guests taught me on the podcast. And I think it's a really great piece of advice. Some other ones here, I want to help, but I need to finish this first. My favorite, if this escalates, I'll ask for backup, AKA stay out of my business. I've got this. I hear the urgency and I need a moment to think clearly before I respond, etc. So you'll get a copy of these, but these are things that I really find helpful and you have to practice them. So I practice them out loud in my car during my commute. And again, for some of you, this might be super easy and fantastic. Use those boundaries and keep those boundaries. But for those of you who it's hard for, saying it out loud and practicing is a really good way to get much more comfortable with it. It's still going to be hard the first few times you try to set a boundary with someone who maybe is your boss or who is someone that you're nervous about or who you just feel uncomfortable setting boundaries with. It's still going to feel weird. But once you get there and you do it a few times, it's going to come like that. And by preserving your boundaries, you're going to preserve your mental health. So a great way to kind of look at this with a team is to think about a 5-minute end of day team reset. So this is a way that you're, and I'll talk about boundaries with your team in a second, but how can you build resilience within your team? Take a minute at the end of each day and have each person say what went well, what was hard, and what do we need to leave here in the building? If you're virtual, you can do it over a Teams chat. It doesn't have to even be on video, or just do it for yourself. If no one else is going to do it with you, do it for yourself. But it's clinically proven that this kind of self-reflection is actually going to help you build and keep boundaries. And it's going to help you really leave the stuff that you need to leave behind so that even if the boundary is kept and someone's not contacting you after work hours, for example, your brain is also not still on work stuff after work hours. And then another tip that I like is agree on a metaphor to easily communicate your mindset and energy within your team. So one example is batteries. So in this example, every day you check in with your team and every team member would say, I'm a green today. I'm at yellow. I'm at red. I'm at orange. And you will understand what that means. Maybe green means that they're 80 to 100% there. Maybe light green means they're 60 to 80, etc. This is a really quick and easy way to see how everybody is doing. And if you've got people who are in that yellow and orange and red space, can the greens do some things to take some stuff off their plate that day? Because it'll come around to you again when you're in that orange and red space. Or is it a day where it's okay if those people are just really off camera all day and maybe don't come to the staff meeting, but do some work on the side, however you want to do it within your team. But it's just a quick and dirty way to say, here's how I'm feeling. I will say, my opinion is if you are red, you shouldn't go to work. If you're 10% or less, it's time to take a sick day or a vacation day or a flex day or whatever it is that you've worked out with your workplace. But it does nobody any good if you show up at 10% because it's just going to drag you down more and you're not going to be that useful to your team. So even if you power through and have a really productive day when you're coming in at 10%, you're going to be even more depleted the next day. So I find this to be a really helpful metaphor. People do it in a lot of different ways. I've heard of people who are like, it's like a weather forecast. So I'm sunny today, I'm rainy, I'm a tornado, whatever it is. Find something that makes sense for your team. But even if you just do this for yourself, it's a really good thing to do. Okay, so that's the like lecture part done. I have a couple of things to share with you and then Q&A, which I'm super excited for. If you want to do this, I would love you to write down one thing you can do tomorrow or your next day at work or whenever you want to do it that will protect your energy and prevent burnout based on what we have talked about so far or anything else that's come up for you today. I'm a big fan of accountability, and this actually helps you stay accountable to yourself. If you feel like it, please share in the chat. I'll give you 1 minute to do this. And then when you're ready, if you want to share in the chat, would love to see. No judgment, safe place. All right. No one's in the chat. Either you're still thinking. Oh, there we go. Yes, Ben. I will log off when the workday is over and not check email. Oh my gosh, I tell my clients to do that all the time. Making time to breathe. Yes, Margaret. No checking email until I'm ready to start work. How many of you roll over in bed and grab your phone and check your work email and your Teams first thing in the morning? I used to do that. It's such a bad practice. It's so bad for you. Yes, Greg, take that sick day. Okay. So let me give you a couple of resources. So I have a free Boundaries at Work guide. If you scan this QR code, you will get to a page where you can download it. I'd love it if you check it out. It's got a lot of those scripts in there. It's got 2 email scripts for like if you have to say no in an email to someone asking you to do more work, or if you're telling people you're not going to be checking your email after work hours anymore. There's some wording that can help you. There's also a boundary tracker in there. So similar to the graphic I showed of the batteries, you track your battery at the end of the workday for 2 weeks. So you say, which level of battery are you at the end of the day? And then you give a little note to yourself of what happened that day so you can kind of remember why. And then at the end of 2 weeks, there's a few guided reflection questions. And what's so interesting is that if you do this, I guarantee you will change something about the way that you're working. You're going to recognize something that is dragging you down that you didn't realize was. You're going to see that maybe you're red half the days, which is no good. So these are things that self-reflection, we never take the time to do it, but it's so important. And if you're not someone who's great at journaling or, being like that introspective, something like that, where you're just kind of doing a quick tracker every day can be really helpful. To me, it goes back to the scientist metaphor. You're just gathering data, and then you're going to look at the data at the end of 2 weeks and you're going to analyze it and you're going to learn from it. These are some resources. I talked about a couple of these, Burnout and Set Boundaries by Peace by Nedra Tawwab. The Rest Deck is incredible. If you've heard of the Nap Ministry by Tricia Hersey, who created it, she wrote Rest is Resistance, a manifesto, and it's all about how basically we're told not to rest, and that rest is bad, and that taking time to rest is bad because essentially we live in a capitalist system and that's how we run. And it actually goes back to roots with Black Americans who were in positions of slaves, and that being sort of this really strong part of that community that in white supremacist culture makes them feel like they can't rest. So it has a lot of roots in that Black American culture. So I don't want to appropriate it and say it's for everyone the same. So I want you to go in knowing that it's a little bit different for everyone, but it is a really, really helpful practice. Each card has a little rest practice that you can do. So if you're kind of like at a loss, you can just pull one and say, oh, okay, I can do this right now. And that's me. So would love it if you connected with me. You can find me at all those places, LinkedIn, Instagram. That's that link to the resource that I showed you. And I would love it if you have any questions. Please fire away. Or comments.
Thank you so much, Ellen. That was wonderful.
You're welcome.
Anybody who has a question, feel free to chime in, or you can raise your little hand, or you can put something in the chat.
I've got a question, actually. So I lead a team and am constantly worried about burnout. Particularly, we ended our fiscal year. There was a lot of work to get that done, and now we're in a new fiscal year, and we lost federal funding, so there's a lot of work going into that. So a lot of high expectations. What can I do as a leader to combat burnout of my team?
It's really good. That was Ben, right?
Yes.
It's really good that you're thinking about that, because we often don't. And especially in the time that we're in right now. It's coming fast for everybody. One of the things that I think is the best thing that you can do is be really honest. Sorry, that was my timer telling me I'm out of time. I go old school because otherwise I like run out of, I don't watch it. Anyway, so be really honest with your team. And this is something that we're not necessarily taught, or that we're taught we're not supposed to do as leaders, but in fact is really helpful for a healthy workplace. So if you can say to your team, hey, I'm feeling pretty run down right now at the end of this year. This was a tough year for us. You know, I want to recognize that all of you have worked hard. And then in your meetings with your team, it might work better in your individual meetings with them rather than like a big meeting with everybody. You ask them how they're doing then. You say, how are you? You know, how are you feeling? You can use the battery check as a, you know, something to talk to them about. Hey, if you think about a battery from 10% to 100%, how do you feel like you're showing up right now? And not in judgment of, I want you to show up more, but I want to know how you're doing. And is there something that I can do to help you? And I think that's a question that we often miss. We also often, and I say this because I did it too, but we often use those meetings, especially those one-on-ones, to just roll down our to-do list. And we never talk about feelings or how things are going, or, you know, have those deeper conversations. So I think that that would be a really good thing for you to do. I also think if you do something like that check-in every day, if your team is checking in red every single day, then you as a leader know something's up and you can get to the bottom of it. So it'd be two quick things that I would say to do. And take care of yourself too, because if you're not taking care of your own burnout, you're not going to be as useful to them.
Thank you.
Good question. Anyone else? Questions or comments or thoughts? Is anyone thinking there's no way I can do this in my workplace? I hope not, but we've all been there, and it feels like you can't, but you really can.
Helen, I wanted to ask about unrealistic expectations because a couple of people brought that up in the chat. What, as fundraisers, do you feel that we can do on a day-by-day basis when we feel like the expectations are unrealistic and that's starting to inflict burnout?
Yeah. It's complicated. There's a multifaceted, you know, way to go about it. I would say the easiest thing to do is do those 3 R's, like sit down with yourself when you're starting to feel like that choking feeling, or like, there's no way I'm going to ask that donor for that gift. They're not ready for it. Whatever it is, take that minute to reorient yourself, take a breathing moment, whatever. And then when you look back at the problem or what's really causing you that stress of, oh gosh, there's no way I'm going to do this, you'll look at it with a clearer head. So I think that would be a first step, is just make sure that you're in a good frame of mind when you're thinking about it. And then it depends on the relationship you have with your boss. It depends on whether or not you're pushing yourself too hard, because I actually find that you can be the cause of your own burnout. So maybe the expectations are unrealistic, but you have to ask yourself, did I make that clear to my boss or whoever's asking me to do these things? Or did I just say, yes, I'm going to do this because I'm a yes person, or I don't want to disappoint anyone? And that can be that's a pitfall many of us fall into. And then I would hope you would have a relationship with your boss or whoever's asking you to do things that feel unrealistic, that you could tell them that. And I actually have a guide on my freebie page as well about how to have these sort of conversations with your supervisor. But it's like, you go back to your job description, the things that you're doing right now, you know, you go through your priorities and you say, hey, here are all the things that I'm doing right now. And I'm at 150% if you add up how much of my time I'm spending on all of them. So obviously that's not going to work. So what can you help me prioritize, you know, what I should be focusing on? And if the expectations are unrealistic because it's more of like people are asking you to raise more money than you know is out there, or, you know that a donor has capacity for, that's a different conversation too. So I know that there can be many unrealistic things that happen in our line of work, but if it's that, then I don't know if you can get with your research team or just really have that brass tacks conversation with somebody that you trust. That's like, there's no way that we're going to get $1 million from these people. So what can we do instead? Or what are our other paths? You'd have to tell me what would work there. Also, I'm not a major gift officer, but I know that that can be part of the, like, deans, or well, I come from higher ed, so like deans thinking you can get $1 million from Bill Gates tomorrow, which is obviously not going to happen. So keeping those expectations realistic is hard, and sometimes you need a backup. Thanks, Kara.
Thanks for that input.
I think I was one of the people who mentioned unrealistic expectations, and I think part of the problem is that they're coming from so many different directions. There are the expectations at work, but then there's home life, and you know, if you're a board member somewhere and you've got aging parents to take care of, and just all of these things kind of all together. And so you can, you know, have that conversation with your boss and feel like you've got the work thing out of under control, and then something at home spirals. And so just feeling like, you know, you can't keep up with that snowball effect. That's where I'm kind of struggling.
And that was Margaret, right?
Yeah.
That's everyone that I work with, and that's me. I mean, it is such a hard time right now, particularly for those of us who are in midlife, and particularly for those of us who are women, for all of the reasons: societal expectations, you know, the invisible burden of housework. So even if we're the main income earner, or we're the person that goes to work every day while our partner stays home with the kid, we're still doing more of that invisible labor. We're having to work harder at work to prove ourselves still to this day. And then we've got that sort of sandwich generation happening, which is happening hardcore for me right now. My kid's almost 12 and my parents are in their 80s. So I'm really experiencing that squish. And what I have learned and what I work with clients on is you have to find a way to prioritize yourself. And sometimes that means, actually often that means, figuring out what you want and who you are again. And I don't know if that resonates for anybody here, but for a lot of us, we've forgotten because we're putting everybody else's needs before ours. And that's a big symptom of burnout. That's a big symptom of midlife. It's post-COVID, but you know, you're having, it's all an emergency. And so you're on the back burner. And it can take a while to get out of that, but there are methods for figuring out, like, okay, what is it that I want? I don't even know, Ellen. Like, you're telling me to go do something that would be helpful for me. I don't even know what that is. So how do you even start at the very beginning? So I have some resources on my website. My podcast talks about that a lot. I'm always happy to have a conversation about that, because, oh, Margaret, I feel it too. And it is such an epidemic right now. And I want us to be able to reclaim what we need in order to better manage everybody else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you so much for that.
I don't know if that helps, but
so yeah, it does. Thank you.
Solidarity.
Ellen, I think we have time for one more question, maybe, then we're close to 1 o'clock.
Sure, if anyone has one. Always happy to end early too, if that's. Don't you love when people are like, I'll give you your 4 minutes back. Thanks. And please, seriously, you have my email. Please email me. I'm super happy to have conversations or talk more or share whatever resources I have. So yeah, if you want to talk more and you didn't speak up here, get in touch. I'd love to hear from you.
Well, Ellen, thank you so much. I learned so many new things today. I really appreciate it. I hope everybody else did also. Thank you for being our guest. Coming in with your sling. We appreciate that also. Thank you, everybody, for joining today. If any questions about AFP Northwest, I will again put our link down in the chat. But thank you for making time in your day today, and I hope this was helpful. Have a great day.
Thank you for having me. Thanks, everybody. Take care of yourselves.